Welcome back to the Be the Frequency podcast. I'm super stoked to be sitting here with our guest today. Dr. Ren, as she's lovingly called, is phenomenal. We actually met last year at a spinal energetics training, but she is a licensed chiropractor and she has a very, I think, beautiful and unique approach. It's part of the reason why I asked her to be on the podcast at looking at healing. And she's built an incredible, not just business for herself, but she has an incredible wellness center that has all these different practitioners. And so I'm really excited for her to talk to you guys a little bit about who she had to really kind of become to be able to not only grow a practice, right? Because if we're trying to grow businesses and things like that, we're trying to sell services, and one-on-one is I don't want to say difficult to sell, but you know what you do best. But when you're like, hey, I want to build something bigger, I have this vision for an event or a center or something like that. And then it kind of gets like there's so many more pieces. And I think Dr. Ren really does it incredibly. And is a really great example for us. So thank you so much, Dr. Ren, for
Thank
being
you.
here.
Thank you. I'm really happy to be here and share this time with you guys. It's always great to get out and just talk to our community, really.
Yeah, and that's what we were kind of talking beforehand is a lot of the people that listen to the podcast are either people who are interested in alternative medicine, natural, holistic practices. They're looking into things like Reiki and chiropractic work and spinal energetics and how do I become kind of this self-healing mechanism? And Dr. Ed actually has a really interesting story about kind of how that came about. Do you want to tell them a little bit about your spinal injury and kind of what?
Oh, yeah, for sure, for sure. So, I've been a chiropractor since 2009. Actually, my bad, 2007. And
Give yourself those
I,
2 years.
girl, it seems like a lifetime ago, and initially when I got out of school, I had initially got into chiropractic to be really like excited about natural medicine. And I went into a school that was very academically challenging, and they kind of I want to say, for lack of a better word, that they beat that holistic idea out of me, and they were like, you must understand and embrace the medical Western world. And so I came out with a different perspective, and I went right into clinical practice where I was working in like sports medicine type of a practice, and I was adjusting people and doing rehab stuff. But like something was missing, and I kept feeling that pull. Like it didn't feel like the reason I had gotten into chiropractic to begin with, and that this call back to the original holistic idea was kind of brewing within me. And I remember like being in my little practice at that time and putting my hands on people and saying, yeah, I know all these orthopedic tests and all these clinical exams, but like what really felt the most natural to me was my hands on the patient. And I was being called to the areas of the body where the problems were or the complaints were energetically, and I didn't even know at that time what I was doing. And so that was kind of the first call to it, and eventually I did get pulled into a more Western way. I got a certification. I'm kind of like an ortho-PA. It's a board certified orthopedic physician extender, and I started working in the Western field. So I had one foot straddling the holistic field and one foot in the Western field. And so it was an
You're like, this
interesting
this is
balance.
uncomfortable. I'm just
It,
kidding.
it was, it was, and I would get some pushback from the orthos and stuff that I would work with in the hospital.
Yeah.
There's no science, there's no this, and I started to realize that it was just because nobody ever taught them, or nobody ever did any extensive research, and it wasn't mainstream. But when I started to verbalize some of these things to some of the surgeons I worked with, they were like, "Well, that makes sense. Wow, that really makes sense." So I started more and more integrating those things, and then life happens, busy, super spread thin. I ended up having a medical crisis in 2022 on Valentine's Day. I had a ruptured brain aneurysm. And from that experience was the biggest catalyst, I think, for me to really embody and integrate this holistic, energetic, somatic type practice to my life and to help others also connect to that. So during that situation that happened, I was waiting about 10 hours for my brain surgery, and I was conscious. I was kind of slipping in and out of consciousness a little bit, but I kept hearing, if you fall asleep, you'll die. So I kind of kept myself up
Yeah,
and
you're
kept
like, don't
pushing
close
myself.
your eyes.
Don't go to sleep. No matter how many hard drugs they were giving me for the pain, I really tried hard not to go to sleep. And in doing that, I stayed awake, and I was kind of like, wow, is this really happening? How did I get here? There was a lot of questions that were coming up for me. And right before the brain surgery, when I finally got to the hospital where they were going to operate, because I had to transfer and I was finally in the OR, I kind of like, I kind of just like relaxed and said, okay, I got myself here and I'm going to surrender to whatever happens next. And that's when I had the outer body experience where I felt I was being lifted out of my body, and I was just like being given this information, this downloads of love essentially. And the first thing I realized was love is the reason we're here. So that was what I heard first. And love can be utilized for the greater good of humanity if we just remember it, right? I felt my family's love, everybody who was praying for me, holding space, doing rituals for me at that moment. I could feel it wrap itself around me. And I feel it kind of brought me back into my body. And when that was going on, I was being slammed with all these pillars. Okay, I call them the pillars of living from the heart. And I was just getting slammed with all this information. And I was kind of like, am I getting this information, the meaning of my life, because I'm about to lose my life, right? Because sometimes they say that,
Yeah.
oh, you know everything right before you go. And I was like, oh no,
I
is
don't
that
want to know it
happening?
all. I don't want to
I
know it
don't want to know. Let me come back. But I felt the love of my family bringing me back into my body. And I was like, I heard that love is the reason we're here, but it starts with you. And if you don't connect to that love, you don't connect to yourself, your nervous system, you kind of lose sight of these things. And you can go down these roads that put you at risk for these kind of things. That was like the thing what was happening to me. I kept getting messages for the few months before my aneurysm, and I turned them off. You know, I was too busy. I was too focused. I was going between a chiropractic holistic clinic and surgery. I was bouncing around. I was caring for my mom. I was in a relatively new relationship, and it was just being pulling in all directions. And I turned off the warning signs, right? So when I came back into my body, the surgery happened. I woke up, and it was as if nothing ever happened. I was completely aware of everything that happened during that. I remembered everything. I just felt like, wow, I was just so grateful to be alive. And I was so happy to not have that crushing headache that I'd had the whole day.
Mm.
And the next day, the surgeons came in and were like, man, we did another MRI. Everything is perfect. You've had like a miraculous recovery. I had no signs of stroke in my brain. I
Wow.
had a little coil holding the vessel together, but I didn't have any blood in my brain. I didn't have any damage. I had full like faculties. Everything was working. I could walk. I can talk.
Yeah.
And that was when I just sat in that gratitude. Okay, I was just so happy to be alive because my grandmother had an aneurysm and died. My aunt passed away. I've had other people in my reality have had this experience and not have the same result that I had.
Yeah.
But I just sat there and I was like, I gotta share this message with everybody. And no matter how crazy it's gonna sound to my Western friends and all the surgeons I work with and all the people in the hospital, like I need to share this message. How can I share this message across the board, you know?
Yeah.
And so I sat there for 12 days in the ICU. It was during COVID, so I couldn't have any visitors. And I feel like that was a blessing and a curse.
Yeah.
Of course, I would have loved my wife to be there with me and holding my hand and to see my family. But I think I needed to sit in what had just happened in order to kind of like understand myself better.
Almost like integration type of thing.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It was integration for sure. And then to formulate a plan, it was like there, I was like, okay, I'm gonna open a wellness center. This is before my center, right? So I'm gonna open a wellness center. I'm gonna share these messages that I got in hopes that people don't have to get to that point where they have their own health crisis as a catalyst. So they can listen to the subtle cues of their body and know that not shut it off and keep going, you know? So this is how the essence of my center came about. And you know, we because it was a love message I got. My mom has been saying you just gotta love, love, love since we were kids, right? She signed all her cards with love, love. And so I was like, oh, we're gonna call my center L3, you know, love, love,
Oh,
you
I
know?
love that. I thought it was like a nod to like L3, like in your spine. You know what
No, L3 is not significant to me in any way.
I mean? Okay.
I mean, it is part
That's
of
what
the
it's
big nerve
like.
plexus, but no, L3 is about love. And that's interesting. Nobody's ever said that as a, if you connect it to the spine, yes,
Yeah.
L3 vertebrae
As like a,
is
yeah,
also.
as like a Cairo. I was like, oh, maybe
No, that's cute. I like that. No, it was about
you
my
can use
mom.
it if you
And
want. Just kidding.
I'm gonna say love of love and the L3 vertebra that it, you know, supplies some aspects of the sciatic nerve.
There you
You know,
go.
there you go. So that it was a year to the day that I had my aneurysm, which happened to be on Valentine's Day, which is also love, right? That we opened L3 Collective and got ourselves going. And the whole goal of L3 Collective was to put together a space with many, many healers to share this message, and also to reconnect people to different modalities that might help them back to their own hearts, right?
Yeah.
So I know that chiropractic and spinal energetics, amazing, but there are some folks that resonate more with sound healing. And there's some folks that resonate more with Reiki. There's some folks that resonate more with traditional chiropractic. And I thought putting together a center where we offer kind of a lot of these things will attract people that are in that vibration, right? So
Yeah.
if they're interested in sound healing and they come and they take our class with my amazing sound healer, Carrie from Sound Healing with Care, come in, have a resonant experience with her, and
Mhm.
then see our center and be like, oh, you guys got so many other things going on. Well, let's talk about chiropractic. And we're like a family there. We all promote each other, right?
Yeah.
And there's no competition there. We are all one of the reasons that the healers that work in my space, in our space, I'll say, is we all have this thing in common that we're in it for the greater good, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, we want to make a financial, we want to make money at doing it. There's an energy exchange and time exchange and money. But what I noticed with the folks working in my office and that were just attracted to our space are folks that put their heart first, right? So
Yeah.
we sliding scales, we give a lot of free stuff away because we think that everyone should have access to healing. And we all just kind of vibe together. And
Yeah.
yeah, there's been other folks that have come in that kind of didn't stay because it wasn't the
Think
same.
that,
And we're,
yeah.
yeah, we're open to that too. Like I give everybody a shot, come and see our space, take our class, or let's do an exchange and see how you feel about being working in our space and also how we feel about you working in our space. Because again, we're really about just having this open community of folks that can be and say and feel however they want to feel in our space without judgment, without restrictions, and so forth. So I think that the other healers in my space, we were just all attracted to each other
Yeah.
energetically. And it's been amazing. And I've had other I in the hospital before I retired from surgery, because I eventually did retire from that. I have a lot of med students that I was training for
Ah,
orthopedics. And I was so conscious about helping these little mini doctors that are going to go out into the world and be the future to understand integration and understand holistic health and the first words I would say to them, the future of medicine is integrative. The future of medicine is integrative. This was part of my spiel, right, with these kids. And so they would come into my center and take some classes, and I'd always gift them something so that they can remember when they're sitting. And I say, the thing is, I want you to remember when you're sitting in front of a patient in the hospital or in your clinic, and you can't quite understand it from a physiological component, that you're open to understanding that there may be an energetic component,
something else besides
something
your symptom.
else, a nervous system component, right? A spiritual component,
Yeah.
that you're looking at the patient as a whole and not just as a condition and a set of freaking symptoms.
Yeah.
So I think in doing that and kind of driving the interest of these kids and also giving them a break from their crazy, daunting schedules, right? So they're coming in and they're
It's
relaxing
probably
and
like the first time their nervous system has like come out of fight or flight since being in med school.
right.
It's probably when
It's
they come
true.
to you.
Yeah, and by the time I get them, it's right before they're taking their final exams and applying for residency. So they're at their height of fight or flight. And once I spend time explaining to them, they understand the nervous system. So then
Yeah.
when you break it down to them, they're like, "Oh man." And I said, "This can happen to me. This can happen to you. This is going to be your patient base. We're all pushing ourselves to the ultimate limit all the time. It's the way that we work in this society. We're all like flooring it all the time. And there may not be a pill that helps this person, or there may not be a procedure.
Mhm.
Maybe it's something different." And my my whole thought is educate them so that when they are in practice, they remember to reach out to practitioners like you and me,
Yeah.
right? And refer to patients like to practitioners like you and me, right? And to understand that there's a world beyond just the physical, right? Like just the physiological, like there's other components that can act on our physiological body, that can act on our nervous system, right? And that it's not all clear cut and you can't always see it in an MRI. Using my clinical experience from orthopedic surgery, it has also been really clearly pointed out to me that, you can fix a mechanical injury, but there sometimes the things that are left behind, the memories, the energy of the trauma, can sometimes keep the pain and lock the pain in your body
Yeah.
after we do a complete repair of something that was badly damaged. We put it back to normal as best we can, but the pain still sticks. And that's another message I have for the little mini med students and other practitioners. Like, even though the mechanical problem may be corrected, remember that there's other components of that experience.
That are feeding that experience, that yes, you can fix the physical and that might take part of it away, but part of it could, the pain is also multifaceted.
Right. And so my whole thing now is just about being open to all aspects, right? Is this, is this a mechanical injury? Is it physiological? Is it emotional? Is it spiritual? Like, and just to see that. And that is how I think I've been able to go back and forth between this Western and Eastern fence I've been on, right? And I feel like integrating that understanding, even, with the most, I don't want to say this, but the lowest vibing person experience, right?
Mhm.
To just bring that same understanding of that what I know and bring that into a space where I'm explaining something to someone. It could be as easy as their MRI, but I'm staying very high vibe. I'm staying very open. I'm staying very understanding. And it can break through that blockage of like
Wow.
pain. And so I've watched it happen in the hospital, and I've seen it, of course, happen at L3. But I truly believe that we can rise the frequency of the collective by just being who
Yeah.
we are, just being connected. So I
Well,
built my practice, bottom line, by attracting those people that are in that same space that I'm in, like
yeah.
ready to help people, putting our hearts first, and they all understanding that love is the reason we're here, but it starts here in our heart. So that's kind of been my journey in the last 3 years, since my aneurysm. L3 has been open for 2 years, and we've had, some ups and downs, but we're always just finding a way to continue to share our message and continue to attract folks that need us.
Yeah. Well, and like, I want to kind of come back to this, like, how you, when you're talking about kind of straddling this like east and west of like, what are some of the, because a lot of other people who are listening to this run into this as well, and whether it be that they're sharing some of their beliefs or stances on health practices, on the medical system, on different things like that. I feel like anytime you're like, hey, this isn't working for me, I'm going to acupuncture, or I have people that they're like, I've gone to a chiropractor since I was a year and a half, so it's very normal for me. And they're like, that's so weird. And I was like, I feel so, you've clearly never had an adjustment, because like, and a good one, because I'm like, I feel so much better. And I was like, I recognize like my brain works better. Like I notice all of these like subtleties. Like when you kind of get into this world of quote unquote alternative or holistic or natural, because I believe it's the opposite. This is actually like whole
The
medicine.
real.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like Western medicine supplements in that sense, trying to keep you whole and healthy so you don't get to that point. But have you noticed, like, what have you had to do to kind of stay in that, like, because even like as you're talking about your journey, you've had to stay very clear, it sounds like, into who you are and what you believe in order to be on the path that you're in now. Can you like recall any like specific, you're like, I had to do this practice, or I had like this mantra like helped me? Like, what is it that has kind of kept you, I think, besides maybe the focus on like love, which was very apparent after your incident, but like anything else that's kind of driven that, like when Western was trying to pull you away from things that made you feel connected to what seems like your roots, like what are some of the things that you ran into, and like how did you deal with them?
Well, that's it's a really good question. I mean, I definitely have seen the limitations of Western medicine. And in that, I've it's just like this unconscious knowing that they're limited, they can't do everything. And they have been taught since the beginning of allopathic medicine that they are the best and it's the only way.
Mm,
And what I keep always replay in my mind is that this is a business model. A lot of
mm,
the things that they've done has to do with the business of big medicine, right? Big
yeah.
pharma, of the American Medical Association. They're just trying to protect their cash cow. So they tried to squash out chiropractic since the beginning of from our inception, from 1895, when the first chiropractic adjustment was ever, given. They've tried to take us and put us under their wing. But, our founders of chiropractic said, no, we're not practicing medicine. We're practicing chiropractic, which is distinctly different. So in my head, knowing that and knowing that Western medicine is a business, working in the hospital and seeing behind the curtain of how it all works and how they want those beds filled and how they want those, right? It's a
Yeah.
money
Well,
situation.
100%. It's really interesting. We've had a hospital open here recently by my house, and a friend of mine works there. And just the conversations that we're having around the people that are coming in and I can't remember what she called them, but basically they're monitoring like how many butts are in beds, because if there's not, then we're not turning a profit. And then we need to, like, we've spent all this money in building this
For what?
hospital,
Yeah.
which again,
Yeah.
I think
Exactly.
has a time and a place, but it is not the end all be all. But when you look at it like I need butts in beds in order to turn a profit, in order to keep this business running, then you value sickness over health.
And then that's exactly what it is. And it's unfortunate when you see it because you can't unsee it,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So I couldn't be, I loved working at the hospital. I loved my patients. I loved my friends and staff and so forth, but I couldn't be there anymore because that frequency of like, it's like a lack frequency. We don't have enough. We need more. We need more bed. We need to fill the beds. We need more procedures. We need to make more money. I couldn't be there for much longer.
Yeah.
The closer I got to my own heart and knowing why I got into this field to begin with, it was hard at first, but eventually I saw, okay, this is a business. And yes, this business helps people, but it can also keep people in systems for too long, over medicate them for too long, do procedures that are unnecessary. So
Yeah.
I saw that happening in my career over the course of many years. And it just, it was easy for me to balance that with my understanding of the holistic model and the integrative model.
Hmm.
Because I'm like, forgive them because they know not what they do, in a
Yeah.
sense. They
Yeah.
weren't educated. The doctors will, okay, I was, like I said, in my school, it was very medi based. I got a lot of that holistic idea beat out of me. And I mean, academically beat out of me, not physically beat out of me. And I feel the same with the medical doctors. I mean, they're taken and they're beaten down so hard and just like almost programmed to believe that their
Yeah.
way is the only way. And
And that you
what
have
is their
to
way?
follow this
Yeah,
protocol. If not, well, and
exactly.
this fear of like, if you don't follow this protocol, you can be sued. So now,
Exactly.
like, the wellness hinges on me following something for you that I might intuitively feel like this is not for you, but all of the things are pointing in this direction.
Right.
This is my only option. And it says, as long you can practice medicine in this box, if you do anything outside of this box, now you could lose your home, you could lose your
Right.
business, you could lose your license. And that's scary.
Right.
It uses fear as this manipulation for people that
It is.
usually got into something to help people.
You hit the nail on the head right there. And when you challenge them, oh my goodness. Like it is. And I've had these challenging conversations with people who are big time surgeons. And when you challenge them, it's kind of like that ignorant part where if I don't know it to be true, then it must be terrible. It must not exist. It must be wrong.
Right.
I have seen that at so many turns in my career where I'm challenging someone and saying, hey, can we look at it this way? Can we approach it this way? Can we talk to the patient in this way and see if that will bring out some of their feelings about what's happening? No, no, no. We just follow this rubric. We just follow this protocol. And the thing is, it's terrible about it is if you deviate, or not deviate from the program because you talked about that, you deviate and you're considered some quack, right?
Yeah.
But if the patient doesn't get better in their system, they blame it on the patient.
Yeah.
So you're
It's
not compliant and
responsibility off
you're
of yours. You're like,
right. I
yeah.
did my part. You're not doing your part. You're going to blame it on the fact that they're not following the exercises and they're not taking the medicine and they're not doing the things that you recommended because God forbid it have to do with something other than a mechanical issue. And
Yes.
so right before I left the hospital, I was at this point to where I was just educating the patients in a way that maybe if some other doctor walked into the room, they would be like, what the hell is she talking about? But
Don't
I
tell
was
them
like,
I told
hey,
you this.
I'm like, shh. while I'm working on you, I'm going to be sending you loving energy. Okay. And they'd be like, okay, while I'm working
I
on
love
you,
that for me.
I'm going to be sending you some energy, just positive energy. And they'd be like, okay. And then also explaining to them that the mechanical insult, your body has a memory of that. And I would compare it to like a soldier coming back from war who's lost their leg and how the memory of that leg
Yeah.
stays, even when the body part is gone and it's healed. And I'd say, so let's start now, weeks before your surgery, just really setting our intention that once it's fixed and the pain will go away and you'll move on with your life. So I was kind of also helping them understand that too. Like, you are empowered, you have a
Yeah.
say over what happens in your body. And yes, we're going to fix this condition or this mechanical injury, but you also have a big say,
Yeah.
on what's
Yeah.
happening in your body, and you can set your intention. And I would kind of feel for, were they a religious person? Could we talk about prayer?
Yeah.
Did they believe in it? All the younger kids that were coming in, they were about the energy.
They're
They were
like,
about, have
"Okay,
you,
tell me the vibe."
yeah, tell me the vibe. And they would ask me, doctor, do you know something called Reiki? And I'd be like, girl, yes, yeah. So that was the way that I would integrate. But I'd also, like, back to your question, like, I was kind of empathetic to those medical doctors and to that system, because I realized, being in it, how broken it is. And
Yeah.
so I was able to just, like, I mean, thank God I
Almost
have
like an
this other
observer.
aspect.
Is it almost like an
Yeah,
observer? Like you're like, I see it and I do what I can when I can, but I
yeah,
lead a horse
yeah.
to water, but you can't shove their face in there and make them drink.
It's true. It's true. And I would be thinking, man, if they had only had some sort of class on this in their
Yeah.
education. And then I would sneak little research things over to the surgeon I work with. And one time he was actually reading a medical journal that was talking about low back pain and different things that helped people in low back pain. And Reiki was one of them. And he's like, do you know what this is? And I was like, do I ever know what this is? Yes, I do know what this is.
You're
And
like,
it is
so glad
something.
you asked.
Yeah. So I feel like it's just because of this old system of programming that they're taught in school. But if they integrated some
Yeah.
kind of understanding of energy medicine and then nervous system and how it corresponds to this, I don't think it would be that bad. I think they
No.
can integrate. And once they figure
Yeah.
out a way how to charge for it too, right? So, like,
Well, I'm
once
like,
they're like, ooh,
it could be like pre and post care. And like honestly, and that's the thing is there's so many studies that are done on placebos that placebos like are typically statistically 60% as effective as whatever they're testing it against
yeah,
across the board, which is huge, 60%. So if you just prepped the client with like, these are our prep classes to prepare your body and your nervous system for information that is going to change within your body. It's currently experiencing sickness. It's currently experiencing disease or pain or whatever it is. We want to set the brain up to send, and again, you can use medical terms like neurotransmitters and hormones that prep the body to heal and repair.
mm-hmm,
Afterwards, we're going to continue with these classes because we want the body to accept these things. We don't want them to reject organs or, rods or different things that we've had to, implants and stuff like that. There are things that sometimes are needed. However, there's also a way to do it so that the body is less stressed and is a better healing, like it better prepared to heal itself rather
mm-hmm,
than I'd be so curious about how like the side effects and like all of those things that can happen, whether it's with pharmaceuticals or even
mm-hmm.
healing time. When again, doctors say, oh, 6 to 8 weeks, is it really? Or is it that we live in a medical model that has said it's always 6 to 8 weeks? However, there are people who heal in 2 to 3. Why can't that be you? Yeah.
Exactly. And I think it's educating the patient to that they understand that they have the ability to heal, completely heal, right? And
Yeah.
yeah, there are some things that are not realistic. Obviously, if you have an amputation of your leg, it's not going to grow back. But understanding that the pain associated with that injury and that amputation, you're
I'm
empowered
like,
to
even
help
that,
release
we
them.
believe that ours don't grow back because we've never, but I'm like, all the cloning, the
Exactly.
stem cells, like, there was a study done, which I found fascinating. It was on this, they did it on a tadpole. And what they did is they found that there are different frequencies, obviously, of all the organs, things like that, as it's growing. They're different. So when it got to a certain stage, as in gestation, they took the frequency of an eye and they placed it where a leg would be, and an eye grew where the leg was.
Wow. I would love to read that. You
I'll
need
have
to
to
forward
find,
that
I'll
to
have to
me.
find it again because I was like mind blown. I'm like, it
Right.
was wild to me. And I'm like, so again, we don't grow back things, but we regrow organs. And
It's true.
you know,
Yeah, it's true.
your
And
bones
so it's
heal.
possible. It's
Yeah.
possible. But we haven't gotten to the point to where we have a way of really
Like believing.
knowing that and
Yes,
believing,
yes.
right?
Yeah.
So maybe that is possible. But also understanding that the pain that you're experiencing in that area of your body doesn't have to stay there forever. And I think it's acceptance, it's understanding, okay, we change. And I do explain to patients, especially when it has to do with like chronic arthritis or something like that. Listen, we weren't designed to live forever, and our body parts can wear out, but it doesn't mean that we can't feel okay. Our body's always looking for a place of homeostasis. It's always looking for a place of balance. And if we believe we are well, then we will be well. And so I think it's a lot of education that I've kind of found over my course of the last, almost 19 years of working in wellness, that I found just trial and error, right? Because
Yeah.
there was a time in my life that I was just hardcore Western, and I wouldn't even, even as a chiropractor, I was just so focused on what's the procedure, what's the injection, what's the medicine, right? And then as I got older and as my career progressed, I got pulled back in that understanding of the holistic body. And when it just doesn't make sense to just be compartmentalized. And I tell the students, and I think about medicine in general, there's a specialty for everything.
Yeah.
There's a guy who just specializes on the hand. And but what about the rest of the body? Do you not
How did the
do you
hand,
not focus?
like, did it come from the shoulder and like mechanisms of like movement that originate from the shoulder,
Right.
or is it just the hand?
Or and how does the hand correlate with the rest of your body? Like, and how does that, you can't just say my hand injury is just separate from my whole body. Your whole body is experiencing that injury to the hand. And how is your body feeling about it? And so as medicine became more specialized and more specialized, that holistic idea of the body just became, washed away.
Yeah.
And so understanding that too, and knowing that the empathy that I feel for some folks stuck in that model is just like they don't understand because they don't know, and they were so beat their education beat into them to believe that there are these gods of pharmaceuticals, and there's it's what they say or it's the highway. But I think it could be taught. I think me working with these youngsters and telling them about
I love
integration.
that you say youngsters, and you're still very young. So you're so cute.
Well, no, a lot younger than me, like in their 20s. Okay, that's these youngsters coming out of middle school in their 20s, and helping to educate them to understand that there's more than just what they're being taught, and
Yeah.
to ask more questions, and that the future, and I believe the future of medicine is integrative, and I keep saying that. I've been saying it for like 5 years. Like, it's integration. It can't just be one thing. There's multiple things. And yes, I will say Western medicine saved my life. That aneurysm
Yeah.
was corrected by a small platinum coil that they took from my in my groin all the way through my body into my brain and formed a little bird's nest that occluded the artery that was bleeding. That saved me. And without that Western idea, I wouldn't be here.
Right.
So I say Western medicine is great for emergencies. It's great for that, but they really are not great at preventative care, and they really suck at pain management. They just want to drug you. They really suck at mental health too, you know, but
And it's
I
more,
feel it.
those things aren't even considered. It's just trying
Right,
to not
right.
feel pain. And instead of
Mm,
being like, is the pain, it can be physical at this point, but what
right.
led to the body changing the
Hmm.
pattern of cell replication, or what led the
Hmm.
body to change the nerve communication that was happening? Like what changed in the body? Because it wasn't always that way.
Exactly, exactly. And I have I have hope. And since my experience, I really try hard and I do my best to look through the eyes of love always and have hope and understanding for these things. Like, and that I don't think that the way that the Western community is going, I don't think it's going to last forever the way it is. People are rising up, and the young people, the 20-year-olds are
Yeah.
questioning these
Yeah.
systems and are looking for something alternative
Yeah, well, look at all these
or
people that are
integrative.
like, I want to do a homestead because I want to grow my own food. I want like herbalism,
Mhm.
homeopathy, all of those are like comparative to like 1980. I can't remember because I just finished up my PhD and my doctorate, so I just like finished up all these classes like over the summer. Thank you.
Awesome.
That was a small applause, everybody who can't see the video.
That was a small buzz. And it was me like tipping my hat, girl, because I know that was not easy.
No, but it is like the school that I went to, it's integrative medicine, and the guy who leads he's always like, you cannot, he is trained in traditional Chinese medicine, he's trained in homeopathy, he's an MD, he had his own practice for years, so he's seen both sides. And when you look at, okay, what the future looks like, people are already seeing where it's failing. And this is, I think, one of the biggest blessings as far as when it comes to technology. I think so many people are worried about AI and worried about all this stuff, but because of technology and the innovation that's happened of being able to learn so quickly and learn from other people, nobody controls the narrative of health anymore exclusively. So all
Yeah.
of these stories about people who have, tried this and it cured that for them and tried that, like all these alternative quote unquote approaches, they're like, oh, there's some validity to this. And the more that and you're seeing it even in a lot of people who are a little bit more in the spotlight. You have people like Gwyneth Paltrow, who's, we all know she's very much in this natural world. She's got her Goop channel and all of those kinds of things. And it's opening up the door, I think, for so many people when you no longer control all of the media and all of the narrative, and you're able to have access to information. It starts to change, and I think that's a huge shift that we're seeing when you're talking about kind of the young people in medicine. And I think understanding that they are kind of like taught a certain way, but they also
Mhm.
have access to all of these other, points of view and information that when you start to be challenged, you start to find your truth. You don't find your truth without the contrast.
Right.
Like even your story, like I had to experience that, like this wasn't working 100% to really lean into like how can both sit side by side and be a good marriage.
Yeah, and I think that is right. You said it perfectly right there. It's a marriage. And like with the practitioners in my space, we're doing different things, but
Yeah.
we all have the same goal. The
Yeah.
goal is to help person on their journey, you know?
Yeah.
And I just think if all of us can stay in that mind frame, we're here to be way showers for folks that are going through tough times and are they don't find us by accident, right? They find us because they're questioning some of the things. We see people that are so stressed out that are, we've seen it, high level professionals and attorneys and college professors and other doctors, people that are so just at their limits and they're looking for other things come into our space and find these other things
Yeah.
when Western traditional stuff has failed, right? So medicines and therapy, traditional cognitive behavioral therapy, and just knowing that there's other options out there, and they can come in our space and try and it's not for them, and that's okay. But just knowing that and educating folks that there are other ways, right? And these other ways it's not choose one way and that's it. It's and complementary to other things,
Mhm.
right? I believe there are some folks that go hardcore homestead and just say goodbye to all the Western traditions, and that's cool. Hats off to them.
And I'm
Um,
like, oh, that's a lot of work. I'm like, my in-laws were farmers for years and years, and I'm like, that's a lot of work.
that was a lot of work, and that making your clothes and baking the bread. It sounds
Yeah.
great, but
Sounds
but
great
I,
until
I
you have to
think
do it for your whole life.
I couldn't do it, dude. I could not
Oh,
do it.
yeah.
But I really think that we kind of squeak our way in by offering these things. Like one of the big things that we go to do a sound healing at a law school.
Mhm.
So, Southwestern Law School here in LA. We've been doing these sound baths there for like 2 years. And it is so great because these lawyers, people that are lawyers, hats off to all the lawyers out there, they're very serious and they're
Yeah.
very analytical and very by the bookie. And so to have them come into a space and just relax,
Yeah.
they're going to remember that and they're going to do this hopefully for the rest of their life when they're overwhelmed and they don't push themselves having these chronic illnesses, right? Because they're checking, they're looking into something that maybe not traditional, but something that can help them release some of that tension, right? So those little things, and then they're interested in that, and then they come to our space because they want to learn about breath work,
Yeah.
right? And then they're like, man, I have a little bit of tension in my shoulders, and then they want to talk about some of the somatic modalities that we offer, right? I think having that attitude in my space that we're all in it for the same thing, hopefully that same attitude will wash over to the younger kids coming into medicine and they can see, hey, I tried a meditation while I was in school and it really helped me. And just having the access, like you said, online where there's, you can look up things and you can, Instagram is great and shows you all the interesting things there are out there that you can try
Yeah.
and being open to
Some
those
things I'm
things.
like, please don't show me this again.
Yeah, some things are like, but it's cool that we have the ability to at least see all that stuff, right? And then we choose, okay, this one, how does this feel? I say that to my clients. Watch a video or read about a modality and see how your heart feels when you're reading about it. Are
Yeah.
you being called there? If it's not me, that's cool. I will refer you to the next person and say maybe you need acupuncture. I don't currently have an acupuncturist, or maybe you need some other type of therapy that I don't offer. I will always say the best way to try it, to really know, is to read about it, go speak to a practitioner and see how it aligns with your heart. And if your
Yeah.
heart is saying yes, do it, right? Try it. And what have you got to lose? You might find a modality that really changes your life, or you might find something that made you feel a little bit better, but you're going to move on to the next. And I'm super okay with that. And I think that's what has led to a lot of our successes, is that I'm not holding on so strongly and trying to like keep everybody for me. I'm kind of saying, hey, we're all on our own journey, and there are many, many modalities that hopefully will touch you in a way that you'll want to continue to do it, but it doesn't always have to just be my way,
Yeah.
it has to be. And I integrate chiropractic adjustments with spinal energetics. So, I'm different than you. So I have a different skill set too. So, and I know that there are folks that if I have a spinal session with, that I think, oh, this person may be better with Amanda, or this patient may be better with, or person might be better with Olivia, or Kelsey, or even you, right? Like all
Right.
the autoimmune people, I'm like Shalane Carter, Shalane Carter, Shalane Carter, right? Because I know you did extensive research on that, and I mean that was amazing, right? So, and I just think if I stay with that attitude that there's somebody out there for everyone,
Yeah.
and let the folks that are needing my work and what I'm good at find me, then I'm happy.
Yeah.
And I have a demographic of women that have seen me, and it's mostly perimenopausal women like myself that are really just kind of looking for a change in their life and feel burned out by their current scenario. These are the women that are finding me, and men that are finding me, that are like, something's calling me to change, but I'm not quite sure what it is.
Yeah.
And or I'm going to menopause and I want to choke somebody, that those are the people
Very
that find
real.
me.
Yeah.
Very real. We should talk more about that.
Yeah.
That's a whole nother podcast. But and I feel good knowing that those who need me find me energetically, are called to me. But I have no problem at all referring out to my friends and other practitioners and other modalities that I think might align better.
Yeah.
And I think that's what keeps my flow of clients, is because I have that attitude. And
Yeah.
I also will say, when you come into my office and I'm like, ooh, this is something that needs to be handled by my medical friends, I will directly refer you out, right?
Yeah.
And say, hey, this is more, you should go get cleared by your primary doctor first, or
Yeah.
go get a blood test, or go get an MRI. And then, if your doctor says there's nothing else scary going on, come on back to see me and we'll work it out. But like that, I think has been the best attitude, and the thing that has changed my practice is so dramatically, is just being like, I'm not the only one. There's many, many
Yeah.
practitioners that do many, many different things. And I want to attract the ones that are going to work best, are going to have the best results working with me. And that, I think, has been like detrimental to my success.
Well, and like the common theme around all of these conversations is that you're like, if I stay true to what feels true for me at this moment, everything, the people that I attract, the clients, the team, the whatever it is, that will be for me. And that can change and that can evolve. But as long as I continue to come back to what feels true for me right now, and that even if that changes, I continue to follow that thing that feels right, rather than
Right.
trying to, like, again, try to be somebody to everybody. I need to be
Right.
a hormone specialist, and I need to be a chiropractor, and I need to be a personal trainer, and I need to be a spinal energetics person. You're like, this is what I do and this is how I do it. Now,
Mm-hmm.
this might work for you, or this person might be better for you for what you're
Yeah.
experiencing. And instead of like being like, I'm the only person that has these gifts, it's like you also honor all of the other people's truth, all of the other people that have something beautiful to give. And when you do that, and that's probably why your team is again, you guys, you have to check out her website, l3collective.com, because it's Incredible in the sense that her team is very diverse. So she's talked about like a sound practitioner. I mean, obviously she's a chiropractor. She does spinal energetics. There's somebody in there that does, which I found really fascinating. She does tarot, but she also like reads like
The lips.
lips. Yeah, I was like, what is
Yes.
that? Like,
Oh my goodness. Awesome.
yeah,
You need that.
yeah, and that so she has all these practitioners that it's like there is some Western infusion in there and some of that like understanding of again like more of the technical or physical side of things. But there's also this spiritual, this energetic, this something outside of yourself that is also available there. And so it's like
Yeah.
you've just done a really incredible job probably of staying so true to yourself that people that feel that truth and live that truth as well for them find you. You know, it's like
Yeah. I love that. And I feel like too the sharing of the space, bringing like-minded people in and referring out to, when I know that it doesn't align. And I've seen it, and I know a lot of healers out there, they just want to have their clientele, make their business. But I think there's like there's something to be said about when you say, I'm not for everybody, and
yeah,
that's okay,
yeah.
right?
Oh,
But
100%.
I would love to help refer you to like my friend
Everything else
Kim,
for
the
you.
lipstick reader, right?
Yeah,
She is amazing. She'll read your lips just like they read your palm. And this is something
yeah,
that's been going on since the 80s. I had no idea. She read our lips and she was right on. I would have never
yeah,
imagined that, right?
yeah.
There's something out there for everyone. And in the big scheme of things, we're all just here doing our best. We're all on our own journeys. We're all more alike than we are different. And I think that there's a group of or there's a special healing modality out there that will work best for you, or there could be several.
Yeah.
Just don't be limited and don't feel because one didn't work, that's it. Keep looking and keep looking for practitioners that resonate best with your heart. So that is, I think, the message. It comes from your heart.
I love that. And what a great, like, that's a great, like, little mic drop for the end. You know, like, honestly, like, I'm really grateful for this conversation. And I think there's a need for people to have space where they can listen to these kinds of conversations because I definitely see it, at least in my own life and stuff like that. And in my like practice where people come and usually like kind of like you said, we're kind of like not to say the last people that people come to, but a lot of times they've tried other things and they haven't worked. And
Mm-hmm.
when you see a lot of that, I think you start to see the diversity of people. And that also means there's diversity in healing and how multidimensional we all are. And that even different times in your life call for different things. You know what I
Yes,
mean? Like it's not going to
absolutely.
work always for every single day for the rest of your life. Some things will, some things won't. But being open and kind of that, you have this thread of just like being curious about what might be for me, being curious about what might work, being curious about what's my truth. And I think the more that people can come back to these things and listen to differing opinions and differing backgrounds and things like that, it gives them the ability to see that we can be very different, but also work together and it be really complementary. So thank you so much for literally like opening. We didn't even plan to really talk specifically kind of about like where East meets West, but like we went there and I loved it. And I think it's like so good. So thank you so much, Dr. Ren, for being
Yeah.
sharing your wisdom. And you guys, if you haven't already or aren't following her, you should definitely go find her on Instagram, L3 underscore collective underscore wellness. Or check out her website if you're in the LA area, l3collective.com. Anything else any other place that they can find you that I missed?
I think you covered it.
Okay.
Just L3 Collective,
Which is not the spine, it's,
it's
love,
not the spine,
love,
it's love, love, love.
but
Now you know that,
I
right?
would
Now
have
you know that.
stick.
Yeah. Yeah, it's like that's really nobody's ever said that, so I'm gonna remember that. That's really cute. But yeah, L3 Collective, I love it. Just even if you just want to message me, you want to talk about things. I love to talk about this kind of stuff. Like I always say, you guys want to chat about life, you want to chat about my experience, you want to chat about what you're experiencing. That's totally free. You can just reach out to me on Instagram and we can talk about that and see if we're a good fit to work together. And I do some distance work too if you're not in LA, but majority of work I do is in LA. I also do collaborative group events. Like I was talking to you, I hooked up with Olivia from Soothe Wellness and we were out in New York City. going to be with Kelsey in Mexico. We have some other planned events coming up. I love working in groups. So also anybody wants to work together and collaborate, also hit me up and we can
Wow,
talk about it.
that's a
And
great
you
like,
too. And
girls'
you
night in
too,
LA.
Sheila.
They're like, oh, let's get together and do some healing.
Yeah,
I feel like
yeah,
that's kind of like the, not to say the new thing, quote unquote, but I feel like where it used to be like getting together and like partying, we're like now let's go to like a yoga class and a sound bath. Let's like,
yeah. Let's go have a cacao ceremony and drink some adaptogen juice.
yeah,
Like
yeah, I'm down.
I'm here for it. I'm here for it, right? Yeah, I'm here for it. So yeah, for sure. And I appreciate you asking me to be on with you, Shalane. And this was a really cool conversation. And I really enjoyed, sharing this virtual space with you.
Same, same. Okay, so I ask everybody before we kind of hop off, what is if you could give anybody who's listening one piece of advice to really become the frequency and become the person that they're trying to be, what would it be?
Listen to your heart. Listen to your heart. It won't lead you, I've done a ton of research on the heart and how heart math, the people
Yeah.
do a lot of research about how the heart is the command center of the body, but the brain and the ego is always trying to take over. But if we put these questions and feelings to our heart will always lead us to the truth.
Yeah.
So I'm going to say, listen to your heart.
I love that. I love that. Thank you, Dr. Ren, for being here. And if you aren't already, go ahead and hit subscribe. Go ahead and find us on Instagram and TikTok and all the places. But until next time, everyone, cheers. Have a great night. See you later.